All right, we'll read today from chapter 8, verse 7. Where am I? 20, I'm just quickly going to. Right, I'm just going to quickly chant one more prayer for me to my spiritual master. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasachari Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Right. So, in chapter 8, it's quite a heavy chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. It's called Attaining the Supreme. So the theme of this chapter is what to do at the time of death. It's actually, it's a very beautiful chapter. But as I said, in our daily life, and unless you are struggling with being very ill yourself, or you have someone who is in the process of giving up their bodies, not many of us think about death all that often during the day. We have other stuff to think about. We have our work, we have school, we have friends, we have who's cooking the dinner, I have to prepare the puja, I have to wash the dishes, wash the laundry, many thoughts. And in the Bhagavatam, it said that I didn't ask. Everybody knows something a little bit about Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, right? There's no absolutely new people. Okay. So in the Bhagavatam, there's the story, or in the Mahabharata, which is the epic of India, and the story about the Pandavas. The eldest brother, the king Yudhishthir, he once was in a conversation with Dharmaraj, and in this conversation, it was kind of a test to see how good a king Yudhishthir would be. Dharmaraj asked him a lot of questions. And in this, one question was, what is the most amazing thing in the world? And Yudhishthira Maharaj answered and said, the most amazing thing is that everybody is going to die at some stage, but nobody thinks it's going to happen to them. So this chapter is sort of, how do you attain the Supreme? Because we know that in Bhakti Yoga, the ultimate goal is to develop love of God. That's the ultimate goal. And in that, when we attain love of God, we want to be with Him. We want to be with Krishna. So at the time where we lose this body and we have to go onwards, then we have to be ready. So because then we want to go back to the spiritual world. We don't want to be in this hamster wheel of always in the material world. So Krishna is saying, is having a conversation about that. So in this verse 7, Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudyacha mayarpita manobuddhir mam evaishya evaishya samsaya. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without a doubt. So, therefore means that the reason is given in the previous verse. So the previous verse is also a very important verse because it says, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So Krishna, twice in a row, he ends his verse with without doubt or without fail, which means very, very surely. And I'm not going to talk about death today, but I'd like to talk about the fact about Krishna's promise. Because in this verse, he basically gives us a map for our life, very, very shortly. The purport says, in the purport, Prabhupada says, this instruction to Arjuna is very important for all men engaged in material activities. The Lord does not say that one should give up his prescribed duties or engagements. One can continue them and at the same time think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. This will free one from material contamination and engage the mind and intelligence in Krishna. By chanting Krishna's names, one will be transferred to the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, without a doubt. And that's a wonderful thing. So Krishna's promise, so that's what I'd like to talk a little bit about today. Just how much we can depend on Krishna's promise. Because these days, in the world of today, we see that our leaders and even ourselves can't always keep our promises. Promises become emptier and emptier. And people go back and forth and back and forth. It is it's like it becomes more and more difficult to find people to truly commit to something. They always want to, and I'm talking about myself. I always try and keep a back door open in case something doesn't happen. But so a commitment is a promise, and if you promise, and you have to do it. So in this case, the only person that we can actually truly always, under all circumstances, trust is Krishna. And I have two wonderful stories that I'd like to share with you to illustrate this. So both of these stories come from the Mahabharata. And as we know, this Bhagavad Gita was spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just before the war started. And the war started because there was a group of cousins, the Kauravas, who stole the kingdom from the Pandavas, the five legitimate kings of that time. And the Kauravas didn't want to give the kingdom back. And even though they said at the very end, after everything, they said it's okay. They were actually, the Kaurava king at that stage gave them half the kingdom, and due to Krishna's, he actually gave them the desert half of the kingdom. But due to Krishna's mercy, it was transformed into this beautiful paradise. And then Duryodhana, the evil cousin king, he got jealous and he thought, well, I don't want to give half of my kingdom away. I want to keep everything. So he banished them. They played a gambling game, and in that game, Yudhishthir lost everything, even his wife and his brothers. And therefore, they were banished into the forest for 13 years. And during that time, so they were living in the forest, and they had received a present from Kuvira, the sun god, and yeah, Surya or Skuri. I can't remember if it was Kuvira who gave them the plate or Surya. No, okay. So sun god. Huh? Yeah, it was a big golden. It was a big golden plate, and he told them that okay, so Draupadi, their wife, the Pandava's wife, is going to cook every day, and whatever she puts on the plate, it will never be empty until she takes her meal. So they could eat as much as they could, and they could feed also a lot of people. And then at the end, she would take a meal, and the plate would become empty. She washes it until the next day. So this cousin king, Duryodhana, was such an evil person that he couldn't even leave them alone while they were banished. He had already taken their whole kingdom from them, and they were living in the forest, and he thought, I'm going to, he was so envious that he thought, I have to do something. And once upon a time, or one day, there came a very, very important Muni, who? Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni came, and Durvasa Muni, as we know, had a very short temper. So if you did something wrong, he would explode. And but if you did something right, his blessings were equally wonderful. But everybody was scared of him because nobody wanted to anger him. And Duryodhana, and he came with 10,000 of disciples to the palace, and Duryodhana took good care of him. And Durvasa Muni asked him, what can I do for you? Is there a boon? And he said, no, I don't want anything, but I'd like you to bless my cousin brothers who are living in the forest. So I'd like you to go and visit them and give them your blessings. But he told him to go there at a certain time of day where he knew Draupadi would have already eaten her meal. So then they would have no way of feeding these 10,000 of disciples, and Durvasa Muni would become really angry, and so he would even curse the Pandavas even more. You can imagine the stress that Draupadi was in when Durvasa Muni came. Yudhishthir sat them all down, and he went to Draupadi and he said, you have to do something now. And she said, I just had my meal, we have nothing. And then she immediately lifted up her hands and said, and just called Govinda, which is another name of Krishna. All the while back in Dwarka, people were chatting with Krishna all the way, and all of a sudden, he just runs out the door like a flash. And he appears in front of Draupadi, and he said, you called me? And she said, please, you have to help us. I mean, we have all these 10,000 of people. They just went to wash themselves in the Ganga for dinner, and I have no dinner to give them. And he said, just give me the plate. Just bring me the plate. And she says, I've already washed it. It's clean. There's nothing. And he said, just give it to me. Just give it to me. And there was a little tiny speck of, I don't know, root or fruit or something that was still stuck there. And he took it and he ate it. Krishna ate it. And because Krishna is the whole universe, the belly of the whole universe became full. Like you would, after we eat our Sunday feast today, you would want to go and lie down because your belly is so full of nice food. And all of a sudden, Durvasa Muni and all his disciples felt like, oh, we have to go lie down now. We're so full all of a sudden. And they realized that it would be an offense. It would be really bad if they cook this wonderful feast for us and we can't eat it. So they just ran away. They disappeared. So that's how Krishna saved his devotees. And why does he do it? Because he promises it. In one verse, 9:31, I think, Krishna says to Arjuna, Arjuna, you tell the whole wide world that my devotee will never perish. So if you serve Krishna, 31. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. That's Krishna's talking about his devotee. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Boldly means you don't have to be unsure about it. You can tell everybody. You can have a microphone and you can shout it to everybody. My devotee never perishes. Now, we know that sometimes we have difficulty, like material difficulties, and if anybody has ever had any difficulties, they may think that this is a joke. But when Krishna says his devotee never perishes, he means that Krishna will always take care. He may not. This is the material world. This is the C-Max prison. This is we're in Kali Yuga, and this material world is the worst of the creation. That's where all the prisoners are. We are all prisoners because we are in Kali Yuga and we are still here. So we are really, really stubborn, and this material world is not perfect, and there are going to be ups and downs. But on a spiritual level, Krishna never forsakes us. He will always protect us spiritually. So even if you are in difficulty, there will always be some way in which you can practice your spirituality, in which you can serve Krishna. Serving Krishna is above any material circumstances. So another story then, to illustrate this even more, is now, this is the conversation before the war started, and then afterwards they start fighting. So for 18 days they fight. And as we know that there were some family members on both sides. So grandfather Bhishma, he wasn't actually the grandfather, he was like the great uncle, but they called him the grandfather. He was on the other side, and he was the absolute best, the best soldier. And on day 9, actually on the evening of day 8, the Duryodhana went to grandfather Bhishma like a little whining little spoiled brat that he was. He says, but you're not fighting. Why are the Pandavas still alive? You're the best soldier. You love them more than you love me, and that's why you're not doing your best. And grandfather Bhishma was so saddened by this, and he said, okay, I promise that tomorrow either the Pandavas will die or Krishna will have to pick up a weapon and protect them. Because right before the war started, Krishna promised that I will not fight. That's why he became Arjuna's chariot driver. He said, I won't pick up a weapon. And that's why I won't fight. So Bhishma Dev took this solemn vow and he said, either they die or Krishna will have to he will pick up a weapon. So, and then he unleashed a storm. He was fighting like anything. And at some stage, even Arjuna, who was the best archer of everybody, he became overwhelmed. And Krishna saw that this is it. This is it. He's going to die now, Arjuna. And then Krishna jumped off the chariot. He picked up a broken wheel and he stormed at Bhishma Dev, because he thought that, okay, I don't want Arjuna to die, so I'm going to pick up a wheel and I'm going to pick up a wheel. So basically Krishna sort of broke his own promise. But it's interesting that a wheel isn't actually a weapon. It's not like a sword or a gun or something. But it's so important for Krishna that his devotees will be able to keep their promises, that he would break his own promise. just because he wants to protect us. So that's how important it is for Krishna to protect us as devotees. And that's these two stories show us that that's the most important thing. We could ask ourselves, why does Krishna come to this world? Right? He has his spiritual world. He plays around with the cows and he doesn't have to do anything. And still he comes. He comes personally. Krishna is so wonderful and so all-powerful that he can empower anybody to do anything. So he doesn't have to come himself. But why does he come himself? There are three reasons why Krishna comes, and that's one of them is to re-establish religious principles. If everything becomes too wild, he says, okay, I'll go and calm everybody down and give them a new set of rules to live, or I would teach them the principles again. He comes to destroy the miscreants, destroy the demons, and he comes to protect his devotee. Now, two of those things he can just send somebody, like he sent Srila Prabhupada to teach all over the world. So he can send someone to empower, to teach. He can also send someone to kill all the demons. He doesn't have to do it himself, but he comes mostly because he personally wants to protect his devotees, and that is his promise. Another thing in this verse is that Krishna says you don't have to do anything special. You have to remember me and do your duty. So all of us, most of us, all of us have work. We have jobs, we have children, we have families, we have stuff to do. And the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness is that Krishna doesn't say that you have to give up everything. You can just do what you do for him. So it's not that we have to give up. We can just add Krishna consciousness, and by adding Krishna consciousness to our lives, everything that shouldn't be there kind of gets cleaned up. I don't know if you've ever seen that video on YouTube. Like there's a lot of YouTube videos on wonderful science experiments that you can do with children. So one of these experiments is that you take water and you sprinkle pepper on the water, and then you take a little bit of dish soap and you put it on your finger, and then when you put it on the water, immediately the peppercorns just basically run away. So and that's kind of it's an analogy of what Krishna consciousness is like. So you have your life and it has all these stuff going on, and all you have to do is just add a little bit of Krishna consciousness, like dish soap. Krishna consciousness, it cleans everything. So everything that is still a little bit off or a little bit imperfect gets cleaned out. So we can be exactly who we are. If you're a teacher, if you're an engineer, if you are a bus driver, if you are a policeman, a doctor, banking, accountant, student, whatever you are, we don't have to give them up. Obviously, there are certain things that we shouldn't do, because there are certain things that Krishna doesn't like. But basically, if you have children, if you cook, if you whatever you do, you can just do it for him. And now there's a verse that I wrote down that I forgot. No. Basically, the verse says that whatever you eat, whatever you do, your job, whatever you eat, if you cook something, you cook it and you offer it to Krishna, and you take the prasad. If you have a job, in the morning, you can just pray and say, Krishna, please, whatever I do today, may it be pleasing to you. The wonderful thing about this is that Krishna doesn't expect us to be perfect. He doesn't expect us to be perfect right away. The practice is already the perfection. Like the more you do it, the better it gets. So, yeah. To summarize, we should always try and remember Krishna in everything we do. Look out the window and admire nature. And if you're in the city, just think of the intelligence that it took to build the city. The intelligence to build the city comes from Krishna. The sunshine, Krishna says of he is light, he is heat. The clouds are his hair. The water, the wind is the purifier. Whatever you do, whatever you see, somehow try to connect it to Krishna and try and do it because you want to make him happy. And Krishna says that without a doubt, if we do that, we will remember him at the time of death, because death is such a terrible thing for the body that that we may not be physically able to remember him. So if we don't practice now, we're not going to be able to do it then. So yeah, it's a practice thing. It's practice makes perfect, but Krishna says that he doesn't want to. He just says just add chant Hare Krishna and do what you do. It couldn't be easier. I know in the beginning I thought like if you have to chant a specific amount of rounds a day, it is sort of an adjustment to fit it into your day. But even that can be done in little bits. So when I started chanting, I started chanting just one round every day, and then I think every month I chanted one more or something. And the more you do it, somehow it's wonderful. Krishna just creates time. Krishna just creates the space, and if we focus on Krishna, so there's this English saying. No, I can't remember it. It should rhyme, but basically if you invest in your spiritual practice, God will take care of the rest. Somehow the material things, if you just focus, because sometimes what happens, and it happens to me and it's a bad habit, that I think, I have to do this and this and this and this, and if the other day I didn't hear my alarm clock, so I woke up and I thought, I'm late. So the whole day was rushed, and I did my rounds, I did my meditation at the end of the day. And if I had just taken a little time to do a little bit in the beginning, your mind is more peaceful, and then everything else that you have to do, you do more easily, actually. So spiritual mathematics is a little bit different than material mathematics. So what Krishna says is just try and remember me and chant Hare Krishna. And you have to practice it now, so that at the end you will be able to remember Krishna. Because if we remember Krishna at the time of death, then that is where we go, promised. And he said, without fail, without a doubt. So that's a promise that we can truly believe in. Okay, questions, criticisms, thoughts, realizations from anyone? Nada? Okay. Then singing, who's going to kirtan? Adishesh or who's not? Ah, there. Okay. Sorry, you were. Ich habe dich nicht gesehen. Okay. Thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.